greenhouse design on page 1. You can see there's a number of different styles, and it's really more of an aesthetic question for you, what you think you want your greenhouse to look like. There's the Gothic Arch, which is kind of a traditional design, a very strong structure, and allows you to use any number of different materials for glazing the greenhouse very easily on that design, and gives you, let's say, good wind load resistance and good snow load resistance with that Gothic Arch. And there's even a company, Gothic Arch greenhouse company, that makes a greenhouse in that style. The only one that I know of. The hoop house, of course, is that's what you normally see in the commercial greenhouse arena. Probably what you would be building would be called a gable, or a straight wall, sloping roof. And that's the simplest. The solar design allows, for more solar gain by expanding the exposure on the south side of the greenhouse. So the south wall of the greenhouse might only be 2 or 3 feet high, and with a long slope going up to the ridge. And then the north roof may be fully insulated, as well as the north wall. The Canadians taught us years ago that you really don't get much light through the north wall, so why not insulate it? And even better, put some reflective liner on that north wall and reflect that southern light back into the greenhouse. And of course, we've got the custom design, which you can build whatever shape you like. Sometimes I've heard of greenhouses being built of aircraft ribs, and that makes a very sturdy structure. I don't know if any of you remember from the World's Fair in Seattle in 1962, there was what was called the Bubbleator. It was a bubble elevator, plexiglass. That ended up being a greenhouse. Yeah. And then there's the home attached style of greenhouse. And there's a couple pictures there on the bottom of page 1. The freestanding has its benefits of you can put that wherever it best catches the sun and will perform best as a greenhouse structure. And you can also leave your cell phone in the house and go out there to the greenhouse and enjoy it without interruption, and it becomes a kind of a private place. But the home attached has its advantage is that you're going to probably use it more. I know my greenhouse is 100 feet away, and I don't always go down there, especially when I get home after dark and it's raining. I'm not likely to go down there. Now, if I had a home attached, you can go in there anytime, and you're more likely to use it more often. The home attached also is likely to have your utilities, electrical and water will probably be closer at hand, so it'd be easier to equip your greenhouse if it's attached to the home. There are 2 styles that you need to consider for the home attached. One is what we call a traditional lean-to, and that requires a long flat wall. If you don't have that and you want to attach to the end of your home, matching the gable slope of your roof, then the even span is the style of greenhouse to attach to the end of your home. And it's basically a freestanding greenhouse without one end, without the back wall. It does provide, with the even span, you can get a higher ridge beam and actually get more volume in the greenhouse. And it has, aesthetically, when you walk from the home into an even span, it's a different experience, that you've got that high ceiling instead of a low sloping ceiling. And let's see, page 2, greenhouse size considerations. Well, fortunately for the do-it-yourselfer, the 8x12 is one of the most efficient sizes for a greenhouse. If you look at the total bench area relative to the square footage, you see you have a high percentage of your 8x12 can actually be in bench area, and you're not using a lot of aisle space. The other thing to consider, though, is how much shelving you can put in your greenhouse in whatever shape and configuration you have. The 10-foot wide greenhouse is particularly suited for if you've got two husband and wife or a couple that want to garden in the greenhouse, you need a wider aisle space. Mine's an 8 by 12, and my wife and I take turns. It's too crowded for one of us, both of us. The 12-foot wide is often built, but and that's what we show here. But I really recommend you go wider than 12 to 13 or 14 feet wide, because you can put a very nice large center greenhouse bench. You can see in that 12-foot wide we show a center bench, and that is the best growing area in the greenhouse, in that center space. So the larger the center bench, the better. And if you go to 14 feet wide, then you can have your aisle space, and you can add, instead of a 2-foot wide center bench, you could get a 4-foot wide center bench. Normally don't want to go over 4 feet just because of your reach from either side. 4-foot bench, you can reach 2 feet in easily from either side. And then when you get up into the bigger structures, we can all dream about that 14 by 20 would be a wonderful greenhouse to have, and all the bench space you could have in there, and usually you've got a higher ridge height there, so you have more overhead space that you can hang your plants from. Generally in a wood structure, you'll be putting screw eyes into the rafters and hanging your hanging baskets from the rafters. But you can also run a pipe under the rafters that you can just put your hooks over and really extend the full length of the greenhouse. The other thing we'll consider later is ventilation, and when you're designing the greenhouse, you do need to plan for ventilation, and we'll talk about solar and active electrical powered ventilation.